right, Richmond and Petersburg. Welcome to another edition of Kids Conversations. It is the City of Richmond Community Town Hall meeting, and my very special guest, as we're going to kick off this December, the holiday season, is Richmond Mayor L. Douglas Wilder.
Good to be with you as always, namesake. And how is Miss Lawrence from Lawrence today?
I'm doing wonderful today.
Great,
it's good to have you. A lot of great things are happening in the City of Richmond. And if you don't have the City of Richmond's newsletter, Linwood, what can they do? Just log on to the website?
RichmondGov.com.
RichmondGov.com.
RichmondGov.com. And I think if you do that, and if you would like to get copies of what we send out in terms of visions twice a month, it lets people know what's really going on factually, without embellishing it, without polishing it up, without dressing it up. Put the facts out and let people draw their own conclusions. Let us know. We want you to know.
Yeah, visions. Get it first from the source.
That's exactly right.
We're going to kick things off with the recent Clovia report. Tell our listeners a little bit about James Clovia.
Jim Clovia did a report here in the city of Richmond about 15 years ago, and it was very controversial, and a number of persons weighed in against it. He was very critical of what he called black leadership, thought that there was very little regional cooperation, had little good to say about the schools, and recommended any numbers of things that we should do and needed to do. And consequently, as a result of that, the Chamber of Commerce, Greater Richmond Chamber of Commerce, decided through some businessmen to commission him to give another report or make another report. And as of March of this year, they did that. And as a result of it, he made his report available and announced it last week. And in it, he had any numbers of recommendations. And I thought it was interesting because one of the things he said, the city of Richmond is moving from a big little city to a little big city. And in making those recommendations, it was almost deja vu to me. Because I started saying, wait a minute, I've heard these things before. And the reason I've heard them before is because we've done many of the things that he's recommended. And among them, he recommended that we have a strong mayor form of government.
Wow, we talked about that first.
We came on this show and talked about it several years ago as to what was necessary and what was needed. So he said, oh, that's fine, that's taking place. But he has no idea how difficult that was, how hard it was to convince the leadership. But the people wanted it, the people understood, and that's always the case. Another of the things he said, well, the city needs to reduce crime. Well, you just don't reduce crime by saying, I want to reduce crime. You have to do some things. We went out and got the finest police chief in the entire country.
Yay, yay.
I said, yay, for Rodney Monroe. And as a matter of fact, he's been heralded in the mayor's U.S. Conference of Mayors report showing that crime is reduced by 22% as a result. And city is experiencing now its lowest crime rate in 25 years. Yeah. We are no longer in the top 25
the most dangerous cities.
Most dangerous cities in the country. As a matter of fact, next year this time we'll be down closer to the 50 area in terms of where we rank. Now, how do you do that? You do that by bringing in a chief, giving him the tools, letting him have the resources, putting new automobiles at his avail, following his recommendations, not cutting his budget. Every time he's been here, every year he's been here, his budget has been cut by the council. And every year I restore it and make certain that he gets the money that he needs. And not only that, I don't tell him what to do. He's a professional, and I don't allow anyone else to interfere and tell him what he needs to do or how he should do it. That's what they did with previous police chiefs who have been here. And as a result, you can't have a professional do his job if you're going to have everybody try to tell him how to run it. So that's one of the first things we did. And then Clovia said that the school board should conduct a complete financial and personnel audit of its operation.
The results says?
Wait a minute. The results, since 2006, I have called for a complete audit of the school system. And in February of this year, a partial audit report was released showing some $20 million in unnecessary spending. But on that point, Clovia, I want to make certain that we understand one thing. I'm not talking about just money wasted. I'm not just talking about the amount of money that could be spent some other place. I'm talking about what are the results? What are we getting for what we are spending? And why is it that our kids in Richmond are not going to school? Why is it that our truancy rate is continuing to go up? I had to take over that with our chief to reduce truancy. But the more important thing is, why can't we have our kids having excellence in mathematics and science? Why can't we exacerbate the need for vocational training, skills training? That's why the 26, gang of 26, they call them, the people that wrote the letter to the schools to say, look, we're business people. We want to hire these kids. We want to make certain that we do that. And more importantly, we will put up some money. And I'm meeting with a group of them tomorrow, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
To be certain that in putting up the money, that it is granting scholarships. It's opening up doors for these kids. I'm speaking about several millions of dollars to help in that process. But they're not going to see any more waste. So yes, we call for a complete financial and personnel audit. And that's why you said not just financial, but and personnel. Do you have the right people there? So we said to Mr. Groupie, we're flattered that you recognize that we've done many of the things that you said.
And that's wonderful, and I want to throw in something. Radio 1 has been a part of it.
Yes, you
The
have.
Richmond School Board and the administration have been holding New Direction Initiative public forums. They've been really successful, talking about development of the whole child,
Right.
one-on-one training, vocational programs, field trips, and the parents are going to get involved with this.
And that's
direction.
very important.
Yeah. So
Parental
thumbs up for
involvement.
Richmond
And
School Board.
we need to make certain that our schools recognize that building new schools is one thing, and I've been trying to get to that and build 15 new schools, and we've got money. Got the money to do it. If they close the old schools and stop wasting money supporting and keeping them open for the purposes of heat and air conditioning and taking care of some of these other things. But more importantly, let's make certain that our kids come to school ready to learn. Let's make certain that we have discipline in our schools, that we have safe schools, and let's make certain that we have teachers who are committed to the whole quality of that individual student.
Mayor Wilder, how do you suggest that we do that when all of our learning, all of our children's learning start on the home front? So if they're not going to get disciplined on the home front, how do we do that within the school system?
Luckily, we were talking about that here earlier before we went on the air. I hate to use cliches like it takes a whole village, but I tell you what it does, it takes the entire community
Yes.
to lay the stress for the education. When I was a kid, and as most of us in this room were, the
Guaranteed.
community understood the value of the education. They understood that that dumb people don't run anything, and that smart people know that the only way you can get smart is to get a formal education. I look at some of the stories of the successful gangsters on television, and many of you see them. Guys who were so smart they could run a drug operation. They were so smart they could run a gambling operation. And then in each of those instances, in many of those instances, you see failures, you see lives wasted, going to prison, coming out broke, families broken up, and their lives just happened. In all of those cases, many of them will tell you, I wished I had taken a different route. And so that's why I think it's important for the churches to become meaningfully involved, for the civic organizations to become meaningfully involved, for the fraternities, for the sororities, for all of our groups, and for the parents to understand that there is no excuse in 20th century or 21st century America today for anyone to go without an education. You show me that kid who has to go without an education, and I'll guarantee you that we'll have the resources available for them to get that education. But it starts from day one in the home.
Yeah. At this point in our lives, do you think it's a comfort zone? Like, I've arrived. I live in a nice home.
You never get
car.
there. You know, you don't have a
I can
ride.
shop if I want to.
Yeah.
I can